Okay, welcome everybody to the town board work session of Tuesday, March 27, 2018. And what's the first thing on our agenda? What is the
Okay,
work
I just
session?
wanted to tell the board that, so I handed out basically a sort of financial snapshot of where we are with our infrastructure project. And so this is the agenda from our last Friday's meeting. That's right? 2 Fridays ago? That's right, okay. Which basically gives a pretty good. I followed the inserts from the Millwood Firehouse and what was included in their report. So the only thing I don't have in here is the timesheet that's in the timeline, which is in the midst of being redone. But these are the submittals, the RFI, here are the change orders that the board's familiar with. Here is the total spent project to date, actually spent, the budget, remaining amount, percent completed financial, and percent completed in time. So we're right where we should be. Allocation of expenditures and the project to date expenditure versus budget. I am waiting for ELQ to give us a revised timeframe. Because Mike Nowak left and Leo is now here, he just was confirming some start dates with Bob Cioli and putting the sheet together, so I'm hoping to have it shortly. As soon as I get it, I will forward it to the board, but certainly by the 10th you'll have it. And we'll also have the last voucher.
What's
So
the
through
10th? Why
number
are we
4.
expecting it by the 10th?
Because we're not meeting next week, so certainly by the next time we meet, I'll have it for
Oh,
you.
I see, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. I just, you know, I mean, I really appreciate you taking the time to pull all of this together, but this is not acceptable. Like, not from you,
Oh.
this is not acceptable from Boswell. Like, they need to be providing us a monthly report on the status of this project and our budget and our timeline and all of that information that is in their contract and that is what they're meant to be doing. And like, you should not have to scramble and pull something together because we've requested information and the best that we've got is not, it's not good enough. I mean,
Well, you know what, I don't know what to say other than the fact that
I know
No, no,
that, I
no,
know
no,
that you feel
believe me.
it too, so
Yeah.
I'm not saying.
No, no,
I don't know if it was an
no.
attack on Jill at all.
No,
No,
definitely
but you know
not.
what, at the end of the day, the board needs to be aware of where we are on this project, they're approving things, so
How do we enforce that, Nick, to make sure that they uphold?
we have another conversation.
We should speak to, cause you mentioned this with John a couple of times, and then we need to go to
We wanna work
Jill.
together and
Right.
be
Not
collaborative, but
work
at the same
with
time, we don't
John. How
want, we need to get
I think
the,
you need to call John's boss.
No, right, Joe, who's,
Yeah.
And believe me, they have people within, if they're an engineering
Absolutely.
firm and we're even considering them for getting extra work to do the survey work, their financial analysts should be able to put, I gave a report template that was, you know,
I
We
think
have
this is
it,
an
we have
issue
it.
that's
I
been
think
discussed
basically
and
we-
requested
yeah,
a number of times and not provided.
since
We need to-
November.
Right, so we should bring it,
To his attention again, I'm
Yeah.
happy to do that,
And there's
but-
no, they should have the skill within the organization to generate a report like that and to
Absolutely.
give us a really succinct, high-level summary of the major issues that we as a board need to be aware of. Because if they can't do that and we wanna give them survey work, you know, it doesn't make any sense, because even if they do the survey, ultimately they're gonna have to do the costing as well.
right.
There's two separate issues really, I mean, one is, what Ivy's saying is that if we're supposed to be getting monthly reports, then we should be getting monthly reports and we should be sending them a letter that cites the provision in the contract that says we're getting monthly reports. Now, if there's a specific type of report you wanna see, that may be outside the scope of the contract.
Hala has given
I
it
don't
to
know.
me, we have seen it, basically everything that is.
And they agree they could provide it.
And they agree
Okay,
that,
I just
but
wanted to make
that's,
sure, but it is
that's
two
the
separate
point.
issues.
right, there's
Yes,
so
but at the
what is
end
their
of the day-
contractually responsible for?
Right, exactly, as long as it's consistent with the contract, I don't wanna have an issue by saying that you gotta provide this to us, and then they'll come back and say, well, in our contract, we don't have to provide that to you.
It's in their contract, and if we go back to the meeting, I very specifically asked their ability
And
to
you were
track their
told
finances.
and you were told yes.
No worries.
Okay, as
And
long as it's
Ivy
in the
was told
contract,
yes,
that's the only
but you know
point.
what, at the end of the day, and Ivy sent an email today saying, hey, by the way, did I miss the email? Where's the report I was promised? I didn't see
And
the
as,
report,
I mean, I
and
just
saw no
wanna point
response.
out the simplest of all things,
I just
which
don't
is
wanna
why I
give them an out,
care
that's my point.
deeply at this
Right.
juncture in time. We've spent a total of 3.4 million out of 11.7. It's gonna come out, all of a sudden, all of this money is going to start flowing fast and
Oh,
furious.
of course it is, of course it is, well, of course it should.
Well,
Fair enough. Totally fair enough.
on a slightly different subject, I saw, we saw Kaz this morning and he was saying that there's a very good chance that they're gonna be able to do the work behind Pizza Station next week,
Yeah, which is fabulous.
which is perfect, because then everybody, people are away.
It's been a late week.
And there's, losing 10 parking spots would be insignificant, irrelevant.
They should have something falling our way. Okay, real quick on the work session, there's an authorization to accept donations. We had a resident who passed away, a fellow by the name of Dick Tyne. There has been money that's been collected in his memory to beautify Gedney Park, so
Oh,
it's going
nice.
to be a resolution. I think they've collected something like $1,500 and they'd like to be able to deposit it into an account specifically for that purpose. So you guys are getting that.
So we have to decide what to do, use it for.
Yeah, so it'd be some sort of beautification.
Great.
Also had a really nice meeting with Nikki Shaw.
Great.
Yeah. About that.
Same place. Or the train station.
No, it's gonna be a little trail away.
That's good, I like that, that's perfect for him.
We have a resident who's a relative, actually, a niece of the Manheims.
Yeah.
And longtime residents, and she wanted some sort of park in their honor. So I've spoken with Steve Coleman and Bob Cioli and Ike Cluzio about, types of park benches and bicycle racks and seating areas. The area that we might be able to site it, I need to coordinate with Westchester County, cause I don't wanna put something there and then have them come and do the North County Trailway and traipse through where we've already done. I've spoken to them about a little plaque for them, Steve Coleman about trees and that they would start with and maybe we could add. And it's gonna be in the vicinity of where we wanted to put the replica train station, so if there's some sort of welcoming area there to give you a chance to just pause and catch your breath, so. Yeah, very excited about it, so, that's en route. Okay, Chapel Guard Garden Club, their annual request for their Mother's Day plant sale. We got some comments back, regarding the, group instruction.
The one that basically said it's your
It's your
business.
call. And then a memorandum from the planning board. Okay.
And you may recall when we last spoke about the local law, when we first workshopped it, we revised it to include, to make sure the planning board would issue a report with recommendations as to the number of parking spaces.
Okay, so.
So this, you closed the public hearing, it's ready for you to consider adopting.
And also, the tree preservation, which we are continuing the public hearing tonight, we're not. but we-
Closing it good because I haven't read all that.
Oh,
I
that's
did,
okay.
thanks for, and by the way, thank you for getting that stuff to me, I was like, oh wow.
So,
And I didn't realize it was only 2011,
Yeah, more recent than we anticipated.
I thought it was so long ago.
yeah, it's funny, right? Yeah, time flies when you, I guess when you're having fun. Anyway, so, yeah, here are the planning board comments regarding the tree preservation law. I wanted to make sure that the board had an opportunity to see them. They had some, revisions, nothing earth shattering, but
Yeah, I'm
May
in,
wanna go
I'm in
through-
agreement, we're talking about I'm sorry, we're talking about 121?
yeah.
Yeah, I think number 6 is important, which is
I gotta find my packet.
relating to when a tree can be removed as a matter of right.
It was on the top, yeah, sorry, number 6.
I think it's page
6.
six.
Hey, I apologize.
Second, yeah, second bullet,
I
sorry.
apologize. Page 6, right, I apologize. It's bullet page 6.
Yeah.
On 121-4B. The only thing I just need clarity on is ultimately if there's a determination made, let's say I say it's a danger and it's subjective. Is there no consequences, Nick? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
If
no,
there's if I subjectively say that it's a danger
Right.
and I may be wrong, I'm frightened by the big tree. What are the consequences of that if it's such a subjective standard? If the tree is making it up 30 feet tall and it's 20 feet from the house, and therefore arguably is it a danger because it could fall
is
in
by
10 feet?
definition of-
Right, so if it's 30 feet tall but 35 feet from the house, if I think it looks like, if I think that it looks a little tilting a little way, you know,
It is very subjective, right?
It's on page 6.
Yeah, it is. That particular clause, removal of any dead or hazardous tree, has a comma here, determined by the town arborist.
right, right.
Certified arborist representing the applicant.
We should have figured
Right,
that out.
but what 6 is saying here is that we should not make it so difficult, because in the aftermath of, for example, one of these storms, you're gonna have all the arborists come out and go to everyone's home over the next 2 months to figure out if the tree is hazardous. So what this is saying is allow the homeowner to make that decision on his or her own, which I think is reasonable and fair, but what would be the consequences if ultimately we
As long,
find
we
that a
can put as
neighbor.
long as not to exceed 3 trees or 2
Well,
trees or something.
I don't know, I don't even know if that's too
No, all I can
restrictive.
say is I had a healthy tree. It was a healthy cedar, probably, you know,
I saw what you
65
were
feet
saying,
tall.
sorry, I was misunderstanding.
That you would never even imagine that it was gonna come down. And that thing came down and literally fell between the greenhouse and the tenant's house.
Whatever it may be, I mean, just.
And it was what, $850 to cut it up and move it away? Would have been better and wiser for me to have just taken that thing down.
That may be true, but
What it costs more
again,
than
the question I'm asking, Nick, is there a way to put in here,
Maybe, maybe not.
is there a look back?
They do like one limit.
Is that the discretion of our building, or not building inspector,
Environmental
our-
coordinator.
Yeah, say, okay, you know what, it looks like, you know, should we mandate that you take a picture of the tree if you,
Yeah, there probably should be some record, just so
Just-
they
right,
It should be,
fair enough.
but the way to document it.
Yeah, just document it, because you're gonna probably get,
documentation is required in,
Yeah.
because that, in this day and age, it's very easy to take a picture and save it.
This is 121.
Because we don't want somebody just taking down trees, you know, because they don't like them,
they don't,
and then claiming that they're.
claiming, well, there was a storm,
This is
so that's it.
or they were dangerous. So if they're ever called on it, someone, it may not be the best evidence, but it's something at least to address this.
And
Well, I
ask
mean,
them
it
to
does
take
say
and
that-
submit it to submit to the proof and arborist, you know, removal within a month of removing or something like that, something happens?
Well, I don't know if they have to.
Well, right now we have, the town arborist may require verification and documentation of tree condition prior to authorizing removal.
Right, so the point is that if
They
it's
wanna
before,
remove that.
because you need to take this thing down,
Right.
shouldn't you take a picture of it and just say it's
But I'm-
terminated?
And you also have
anyway?
situations where trees are growing into septic lines, or you've got situations
Right.
where.
Yeah, but when that happens, you have enough time to at least call the person and say, listen, this is a
What's relevant here is number 6 from the planning
Planning board talks about the
Page
emergency.
6 is saying we should not have to go through an arborist, because when you have a storm, for example, is what just happened, it's
Yeah.
inconceivable and overwhelmingly consuming for an employee to do that, to go, let me go to the 87 houses, the
He won't make it there.
143 houses.
So how about in such event, they fill, I mean, there should be like an online form or something to just fill out to say,
Yeah, I'll
here's
put
the
the
tree,
picture
here's
and
the
say,
picture
yeah.
of it, and here's the reason we can't.
Yes, I think it should be required, and your failure to do so, that should be the violation potentially, as opposed to taking the tree, or that could, because we don't wanna be too cumbersome, but we also want people just to wiping down trees and saying, oh, it was a danger, because I thought it was a danger.
Good idea.
So this at least ensures that you have to follow a procedure, if you fail to follow that procedure, that's the consequence.
Right.
Even if it's nominal, even if it's whatever it is, we can figure that out. My other,
I can work on that, yeah.
my other question was on page 9, which is on the second page, but it's bullet page 9, tree replacement.
Yeah, it's not, it's
So
just,
it's in it.
no, we're opening, we're not opening
No,
the
no, the
public
public hearing, we scheduled it for the.
April
Yeah, I
9th.
thought we had for April 10th.
Sorry, I thought-
Oh, should we not have been discussing this?
No, we should be.
No,
We should be discussing it so
No.
we can make any changes based upon your review of the planning
Yeah,
board.
I
so-
knew it was something I had to.
We are gonna consider
There's a
these
lot
and
out
make
there.
some changes before the public hearing?
You can if that's what you'd like to do, yeah.
Oh, I didn't think we could make any more changes before.
Yeah.
I thought that section 9, page 9, section 121(6)B, tree replacement, I actually thought it should be even more liberal, more broad, because where it's saying it should be on site, and then it says other than the discretion should be granted to the approving authority, and then it goes on to say, except where the approval authority determines, because of site constraints and it's impractical to do so. But I think that if somebody is willing, I don't know if we want to encourage it, but if someone is willing to replace, making it up, 3 for 1, you don't, and they should be able to put it into the tree bank and then put it elsewhere.
Not my problem.
This would not allow them to do so because this is specifically saying, you know, site constraints. I think the approving authority should have the ability to have a general clause or their
Jeremy, I
discretion.
think the concern and the reason why this was written that way is what they don't want people to do is buy mitigation.
Yes, I understand that, and that's one of the things that I'm actually responding to, which is the approving authority should have the ability, I think, in the right circumstance to say, call it buy mitigation or not, if someone's willing to replace 20 trees for the price of one,
All I
the
know is that
benefit
there are
could be a
certain,
greater benefit.
There-
So they
right.
should have that discretion to make that determination and say no, or
but
say
I
yes.
think, that, so maybe Nick, you have a thing about this, I mean, I actually think sometimes taking trees down actually makes whatever remains there healthier.
Right.
And that sometimes, you know, you may take a tree down, but what you're putting in is a meadow. And that has its very distinct advantages. So I think that I don't wanna be in a situation where it makes it easy saying, okay, I wanna have, you know, I wanna develop this property, I wanna have it open lots and backyards, I'm willing to pay 5-1 to the tree bank. And then all of a sudden, you know, the number is so big that the town finds it hard to turn away because it's a revenue source. But
It's not, I mean, it's not really a revenue source.
it's money coming to the town to use at its discretion.
But no, but for the purpose,
Specifically for the purpose of the tree replanting.
No, I
So it's not
understand,
replacing like a
but I
budget
think
line.
that, I think that what it has to do is there such a thing as a language where there needs to be a balance between, you know, environmental benefits? Or some sort of language where I think the intent of what was originally written has merit, but I do agree that, you know, you can actually create a healthier environment by not necessarily replacing them on site.
But I think, right, so the decision to authorize the removal of a tree is separate from the decision to require a tree replacement, because you're first making the decision, should the tree be removed? Once you've made that decision, you then go to the issue of replacing it. And whether you're replacing it on-site or off-site for the tree bank, the code as written really makes it, the only reason would be because of site constraints.
right, and
So
that's, and I'm
otherwise-
asking for a broader.
But yeah,
And I think, yeah, and Hollis trying to find some language that would encourage them to do it on-site. And
But
make
allow for discretion.
right.
Yes.
And I don't think, you know, when Holly, you said buy mitigation, I actually like that expression, but I don't think it's actually 100% applicable here because nobody's really trying to like skirt the like, you're not like basically saying, screw the environment and I'm gonna just pay money instead. Because what you're doing is, you're basically putting money to the tree bank, the money should be used to plant more trees. And, you know, if, that should be the end goal, you're basically, the goal is to plant trees, whether it's on your property or somebody else's property.
I think the
You're
goal
planting
is
trees.
actually broader than just planting thick trees, I think the goal really is to both protect character, community character, and protect the environment, so I think there's two things, you don't wanna be in a situation where the financial advantages of buying mitigation outweigh the protection of either of that particular site or the community character.
I don't know how under the code as drafted you're buying mitigation, because the only reason you could be forced to do off-site mitigation would be because of site constraints, it's not possible to fully meet the requirements
And who the
on-site.
approving authority as it stands right now is,
Depends upon which board you go into, but it's probably going to be,
It's the zoning
some-
board unless it's the planning board.
Right.
I mean,
This one may-
But let's also be realistic too.
Well, for the town, so it's the
No,
town
no,
environmental
Steve,
coordinator,
coordinator.
right.
Right, but it's also realistic, if you violate it and you're given a summons, it's gonna be in the town prosecutor.
what? Yeah, wait, what violation?
If you violate and you're given a summons.
Whoops, I forgot, we
it's
don't
gonna be
do
the town
that.
prosecutor, it's not, and I don't
It's
wanna,
not our custom.
I don't wanna dip into that, but I can tell you that there's plenty that have not, we just,
But so the approving authority, if there's a land use application, it's that board who has the land use application, otherwise then it's the environmental coordinator. And he's going to make that determination whether it's practical or not.
Can I ask a question, actually, on that point? When are we gonna circle back and have that conversation? Because that is certainly something that someone is gonna ask us about at a town board meeting when we have this conversation.
about what
About
Prosecutorial
the
discretion and
enforcement.
enforcement of it.
we can add to the agenda.
I mean, it is certainly going to come up, so we probably ought to discuss it before it comes up in
Okay,
the
so we can
public
add to the
forum.
agenda, but back to this thing for a second. I mean, all I'm saying, I mean, to Jeremy's point, I mean, listen, when I put in the pool, I took down some trees and I had to put some trees up. But I was able to do it, but if I had to put up a tree like in the middle of my backyard, which has no trees, and the kids can play football there, I wouldn't wanna do that.
Of course you
Right,
would
but that
want
would be a
to do
site constraint issue that would allow them.
Well, is it a site constraint
not
issue?
really,
It's not really.
Yeah, like I
site
have tons,
preferences.
yeah,
Site
like I have tons of
preference.
room for trees, but I don't wanna ruin my playing field.
Or you get a situation like me where my problem is too many trees.
That's blasphemous.
Well, it's not healthy, it's not healthy for the forest.
Alright, so just if you can think of something, we can deal with it, as we can get this moving forward.
Maybe just, let me just say, maybe something like Colin's thing, where basically it's not just site constraints, it's maybe somebody determines that it's actually, it would be unhealthy to, but that's against, that's a site constraint though, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, she's looking more for the environmental benefits, whether it's
Right.
aesthetics or whether it's to promote growth of lower
Right,
trees
right, so
and.
then-
Or if it, yeah,
The
so we can
understory.
have, well, not understory, or to
Understory.
have trees of varying ages, so you don't have a single age population.
So to
It's a
that,
verse
to
to put
that
in a little
point,
bit.
the planning board made a recommendation here that 100% of the replacement trees would be canopy trees. And I'm not sure why they are making that recommendation, because we had 75% canopy, 25%
They would stock in
understory. Yeah, no, but and like this is, I'm starting to very quickly get out of my depth here, like
Deciduous
is there
trees aren't,
some-
deciduous trees aren't considered canopy tree, but they have their benefits.
They're not?
I don't
I
think
don't know what
canopy
definition-
tree is something that has.
The way that we've defined
They-
canopy,
yeah.
which maybe
That's
by
a
the way should be
We
a
define it, I mean, is it
defined
defined, is it
term.
defined as that?
Tree considered
But we said
canopy tree?
canopy is just mature height over 40, and understory is mature height less than 40 feet.
Canopy typically
we're
refers
defining it,
to, right, I understand, but it typically refers to a tree that has a
Right.
spread.
Right.
A deciduous tree goes like this, so there is no
But we're
canopy.
defining it
That's a
just by
conifer.
heights. And
Yeah, that's a
more like this.
conifer.
and I'm concerned
Nice.
that I don't know
Right,
that
that's what I'm saying, it's not a canopy tree.
No.
So they're saying you have to
What about
replace it
aspen?
100% with
They're
trees over
saying-
40 feet?
No,
There-
trees that will grow.
that will grow to over 40 feet. Their recommendation is that from an aesthetic point of view, we should have 100% of the replacement trees be canopy trees. But I feel like from what you're saying, and my experience in my yard as well, that if you have 100% of your replacement trees be canopy trees.
Native dogwoods would not fall under that.
Right, well,
Well, plenty that wouldn't fall under that.
there's,
Yeah.
They're
and
like
and
100%
you,
anything.
then, yeah, I don't know, so, but I honestly
Shouldn't it just
have
be
no
the
idea
discretion
why
of
they're-
You
the,
should ask
should be the discretion of the arborist,
like
or
saying
discretion
never.
of the environmental court, you know,
Never
why,
say
why
never.
should it be?
Or you could have a requirement unless the environmental coordinator, justifies in writing a
But I don't
different.
think that should be a requirement, if you have a tree that, a tall oak that falls on your property, right? So you have, or it gets struck by lightning, you have to take this tree down, now you gotta plant another tree. Maybe that type of tree is not appropriate, because where your property is gonna be, another tree that big is gonna hit your house again. So you wanna put
Yeah, it's true.
a smaller tree on the periphery of your, or whatever it is.
Right.
You wanna plant
Yeah,
an
the top
apple
of the
tree
trunk.
or a
It's
dogwood or
just so
something
it's
like
not
that,
evergreen,
you should
it's
be
a-
able to do that.
It's the truth, if you have a tree fall on your property and it comes close to your house, you don't wanna put up another big tree, I mean, it's practical point of view, I mean.
Am I reading this correct, if you were to take down, am I reading, Nick, if you had a non-native Japanese tree, a 45-year-old tree, it was dying, you took it down, or whatever, you decided to take it down.
Same
You would
heights
then
of
have to
trees.
take a canopy tree to replace that,
No,
because,
no.
or it's only a canopy per canopy.
That's what the law.
Yeah, that's what it's saying,
Yeah.
that's what it's saying, so why would you have to replace a canopy tree if you're taking down a Japanese maple?
Right, it doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
I just wanted, by the way, to say Japanese maple, because you guys were saying specific trees, and I wanted to kinda
And
like.
that's the only one you do? Alright. I will, I'll.
Do you
About
want,
like kinds.
Jeremy Green Thumb.
Or
so
red
do you
one.
want, are you suggesting F and G be removed?
Yes, those are prolific here.
Or are you recommending be more guidance?
No, I'm recommending that F and G remain the way that they are, as opposed to accepting the planning board's recommendation to
But you still come to that 75% of them would be canopy
But
trees.
but I
don't think
but
it's an
I also
arbitrary
don't
number.
know, I am not.
Yeah, I'd like to know
Maybe we
why.
can ask, can you
I'm
ask
not
Sabrina
Steve
to
Coleman, I
explain
am not-
what the conversation, or if that was an actual conversation we can look at on the video? Cause it does seem to be, I'm sure there was logic behind it, I just don't know
Explain,
what it is.
I don't know what it means, right, why?
Definitely some logic for 100% is gonna be something.
Even for 75%, there's gotta be some reason for it.
It seems like it shouldn't necessarily be a specific percentage or number.
It does, but I am curious to see.
Cause
what
frankly,
they're
it
using for.
depends what you're using them for, like, what's going on at Chapel Crossing, all those trees they took down. If they put all canopy trees there, you're not gonna have
Screening.
screening.
You lose that
You
when it
need
grows.
some lower trees, and maybe some of them are gonna be pine trees that are gonna be, or could grow tall, but you need screening also, so
First 20 feet.
depending on the point, the point of it, I don't know that a specific percentage at all is appropriate.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Right?
I hear what you're saying here.
Not 75%?
I mean, the truth is like, no, I mean, when I took down some trees, my biggest concern was my neighbors, like we were taking down screening, and it affects us as much as it affects them.
Okay.
Okay, alright, so we'll incorporate that and get
But
some answers.
I
from
personally am
them.
agreeing with most of the other stuff that's in here.
So would you like us to prepare a revised draft based upon
I
their
do.
comments and as discussed tonight?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
maybe we could redline it so that everybody can see.
And then I'll,
Yeah, red
then,
line.
and maybe in the next conversation, I can review my old notes.
So you're gonna work on page 9, section 121-6B, how does it, okay.
Oh, which
And the
year?
percentages, okay.
Taking down a tree.
Yeah, I'm going to cooking school. And I was sheathing a
passage.
knife,
Let's go. She failed out.
I was sheathing a knife and then they're super sharp, so. Okay, it's totally fine, it doesn't hurt or
My
anything,
thing is,
it's
I
just,
think I like the way Ed signed it better than
it's
the
2
way
days
I-
probably.
Alright,
Where she
next,
put it, where he put it from the whole town board. He signed it from the Newcastle town board.
Yeah, I was gonna make that comment,
Yeah,
I'd really
thank
like
you.
to
Sorry,
know all of it.
yes,
what did
that's
you
what I was
say?
gonna say.
No,
Exact
I
same
like the
thing.
way Ed ended the DOH letter better, which is the Newcastle town board and listed everybody, I like that better
Yes,
than this.
I like that too.
Okay, not a problem.
Which letter are you talking about?
What about the
The,
Murphy
letter to
letter?
Murphy.
Not just you, but all of us.
And also,
Just say
in,
like the Newcastle
in
town board
Rob's-
and
and
list
then
everybody's
list-
name.
Right.
in Rob's draft, he had copied all of the Republican senators and, I mean,
Oh,
it was a
yeah.
long, long list.
I think that's a great idea, I think we should.
CCs.
And the only other thing too is you had that link, should we put that link in there? No?
I don't
Okay.
know that it adds much.
We should also maybe, well, put their titles, because the truth is that a lot of this legislation, I
Oh,
mean,
I changed,
you gotta get it out of committee in order for anybody to even vote on
I
it.
changed this.
So, some
I
of
didn't give you the right
this,
I threw out the wrong piece of
you
paper,
know,
whoops,
it's the committee people we should also be really targeting.
whoops,
What'd you do?
Okay.
nothing, it was, I started with
Okay, but you
February
got it.
16th
You
letter.
got it on the.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, so I
I went
agree,
through and I changed it.
in case you didn't hear, Rob just said that it
It's-
should reference their title,
Oh,
especially if they're in the committee.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that I sent does have their titles.
Okay, then I'll,
You just have codes
yeah.
committee, if they're in the codes committee?
Yeah.
So I'll just attach it and
This would be the
then
codes committee,
CC
I
and
see.
just
I
list
think
them
so,
all.
I mean, I got it off the
Yeah,
website.
cause that's the penal law, and
See that op-ed that former Justice Stevens wrote?
I did.
I
That
did
he
not, but
thinks they should just repeal the Second Amendment.
someone referenced, but I did not
It
see
was
it.
actually
You
very
can't even
interesting.
get them to freaking ban assault weapons, you can get them to ban
It
the Second
was
Amendment.
very interesting.
Bump stocks, just start small.
Right, exactly,
Raise-
we're having,
raise-
I've had
put one.
an
I was
18-year-old that said a 21-year-old,
Yeah.
a 20-year-old to buy a freaking assault weapon.
Alright,
Can't
They
get
still
them.
can't drink in New York, but it's okay.
Can't get that
They
to
can
them.
get this all over.
I don't think it's the first time he suggested that.
It would
What?
be really good if we could get this out, like, tomorrow.
You might
Yeah.
feel better?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got this
Yes.
week.
So we're ready.
Okay,
Just gotta add in the
we're
names
actually
and
gonna,
the,
I'm gonna email it to Senator Murphy, and if I can get the emails for the other ones, we'll send them via email.
we can.
Well, I don't have the emails for the other ones.
Well, I'm sure we can find them.
the Senate website.
Well, actually, I just copied whatever's on the Senate website, so it's there, I do
Yeah.
have it.
You know, a lot of this is like
Sure,
in the
it's a
codes
link.
committee, so, I mean, they're the important people.
Yeah, we'll get it out tomorrow.
Okay.
No problem.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
good.
code committee members are definitely,
And then are we attaching the Lewisboro,
Yes, we referenced it,
Yes,
so-
We referenced
I
it,
know
so
we
we'll
referenced
send
it, I'm just asking if we're
Well,
gonna
I was gonna include it because it was
put it in,
referenced.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, we definitely
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
include it.
Okay, so it's gonna have quite the attachment.
yeah.
Well,
This is gonna be a 20-page
the
book.
senators,
okay.
that was a list, that was about 6 or 7 pages, but we
Well,
could,
I will double
lower
check.
the fund.
Make it 4.
Go with an 8.
If we could email it.
12-point tight, double space.
Turn your new 11, always works. Alright, are we done?
Yes.
In the
I
work
guess
session?
so. Alright.
Motion to
Adjourning?
adjourn.
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.